Hey everyone, this is lecture 3 of the Rambuddha podcast. So my voice kind of sounds messed up right now because I just went through like some not traumatic, but like fucked up experience. So, mental health is a big issue. This shit cracks me up, but at the same time, it's funny that it's part of like, how the Joker says, life's a tragedy. It's not a tragedy. I used to think it was a tragedy, but it's a comedy. So that's kind of what I think. I had to sum up, went through a messed up situation where I got attacked by somebody, like a relative and stuff, family member, relative, so for this individual, I booked a dentist appointment, and he hasn't gone to the dentist for like a year or two. You're supposed to go there every 6 months, right? You got to get your gums and teeth checked. So I don't know if he was suffering withdrawal symptoms of just coming off drugs or whatever, right? Like it was just, and so I wake up in the morning. I sleep on the couch. Like I got a bed, but I sleep on the couch because that's like my spiritual go-to place. Like I have this one couch in my house where I've had so many out-of-body experiences on, so I just sleep on there, just playing meditation mantra at night, meditate, and then just transition to sleep, and the meditations for night, they're meant to help with sleeping, right? They're not like, because in meditation you're not supposed to fall asleep. You're supposed to be alert, thoughtless presence. So tell this individual excuse me. I tell this individual that he's got a dentist appointment and he has to go because I asked him like the day before and he confirmed it. And I don't know what was happening, what previous conversations was happening. But so I tell him that, and then I go to get the keys to just drive and get a coffee for myself, right? All of a sudden I hear running and this person just attacks me. So it's like, imagine you wake up in the morning, just, grab the keys to get a coffee, and next thing you know, you're being attacked. So then just like, I'm not gonna just stand there and be attacked. So, I start like defending myself, start fighting and stuff. But I twisted my fucking shoulder in the process. Then, so then the person just like leaves, so I hold my shit, and then, but since my shoulder got twisted, I just kind of fall on the ground. The person's like, so after like I fight him off, he he goes back upstairs, but then I got so much pain in my shoulder, I just kind of collapse on the ground. And this is the funniest shit. So there I am on the ground with like a shoulder, just kind of like looking at the ceiling like, what the fuck is this shit? Like, what is this, right? So usually in this scenario, if I was younger, I'd lose my shit. You just go into that anger, rage, and then just, like, you fucking put your hands on me, right? Yeah, but after he went upstairs, so the only thing that really kind of that got fucked up, that caused me pain in that just unexpected morning fight, it's like waking up in the morning, okay, someone's gonna attack you today. It would have been nice to have a heads up. But so was my shoulder. My shoulder's like killing me right now. But so So then I decided to analyze what the hell just happened, because it was so out of context for me. I don't even know, it's like telling somebody that I booked a dentist appointment for you and you got to go to a dentist and they just run and attack you, right? That shit is like, there's no there's no logical thread that I am aware of. Like, I don't know what the fuck was going on before when he was arguing with other people, but yeah, right? So I think some people are just really afraid of the dentist. But yeah, so then I was analyzing this shit, and you know, um growing up I was a very like egotistic kid, so I would get into a lot of fights. I've been to a lot of fights. Um, but that's not the issue. The issue is, what the fuck was this? Like, why did the universe throw this shit in my face in the morning for no reason? And that's where I cracked up, right? That's where I was like, okay, so if I had done something like fucked up, right? Then, and somebody attacked me, like just full on attacked me, then I'd get it. Then I'd understand. I'd be like, okay, but if there was no logical, if I hadn't instigated it, yeah. So somebody just came, had to pause the podcast for a second. Somebody just came and asked if I was okay. Yeah. So what happened was, yeah. So I was analyzing it, and I'm like, okay, what does this say about life? My reality here. It says that, one, people got mental problems. Jesus Christ, that's like, we gotta accept this. That people in life got mental problems, man. And sometimes they're people like you care about, even if they're like fucking monsters that you gotta like fucking shut up every now and then. But they're still people that that are part of your life. And so that's one. Mental problems. The other thing could be, it's still a mental problem, but it's really triggered from withdrawal symptoms from drugs, right? I think a lot of people think that drugs make people go insane. That's true. Yeah, drugs do people make go insane, but their withdrawal symptoms make people go like 10 times more insane even, right? So that's another thing. And the ultimate question is, why the fuck did this shit happen to me? And I got, again, two theories. One, it could be a karmic unfolding of things that I have maybe done in my past lives that are coming to greet me and say, hey, don't forget about this cycle. Maybe you attacked somebody when you were, in your past life. I actually know my past lives, several of them, but yeah, right? So it's like when you were in whatever, right? So, and it could be that, or it could be, see, this is the positive way of looking at it. It could be a wake-up call for something. It could be a very dramatic wake-up call. So, the universe is like, okay, so here I am from this, imagine the universe just got like these giant eyes from the sky looking down through the roofs of every house of people. And they're like, okay, so here's Rambuddha or whatever, right? And in his life, he's going down the wrong path, maybe. So let's start with, and imagine it's a week from this incident, okay? So let's just start with giving him symbols and shit. So he's like walking out, on the sidewalk, and right at the moment when he thinks that maybe I'm going down a wrong path with this career choice or with these decisions that I'm making, like business decisions or whatever, all of a sudden we're gonna put a squirrel, yeah, to tell the the dudes behind the scene of the universe, of Earth, the spirits or whatever who are puppeteering like the circumstances or contributing to it, we tell them to throw a squirrel in front of them, right? So all of a sudden, as I'm walking, and this actually happened to, now that when I analyze it, I'm noticing it, right? So right at the moment when I thought about it, a squirrel jumped in front of me, like, jumped on the sidewalk, on the path I was walking, and then jumped away, right? So the universe is like, yeah, that's gonna do it. And then I just look at that, but I didn't notice it, right? And then they're like, did it work? And the dudes behind the scenes, the spirits, they're like, nah, man. So, sorry, universe, that was just weak. Like, you didn't do it. He's like, I don't want to do anything harsh. This person could, he's trying to be a nice person. He's trying to make a good living. Let's give another thing, right? And then, like, let's say I'm looking at the sky, and the universe is like, okay. So, right the moment when, again, he thinks about, is this the right path? What we're going to do is right at that moment, we're going to have the clouds move and the sun shine into his face, right? It'll be all beautiful. It'll be all symbolic, like the light coming in, like wake up, and they're like, all right, we'll make it happen. And then it happens, and I just go like, oh man, what the fuck? The sun's shining in my face. I just turn off the blinds, right? And the universe is like, did it work? And the other ones are like, nah, man, he just pulled down the blinds, right? The universe is like, all right, shit. I don't want to do anything harsher. Let's get a person in there. Let's get somebody. So one of his friends. So let's say one of my friends comes down and he's like, yo, what are you up to, man? I'm like, yo, what are you up to? We're just talking and shit, small talk. And he's like, so any new things? And I tell him, I'm like, yo, with excitement, yeah, I'm doing this new like business venture. I'm doing this shit. We're gonna take it there. And then he just, and it's like whenever you give your ideas, your new ideas and endeavors, you kind of want validation on them from other people, just to give that idea more power for you to justify it in yourself. So I say that to my friend, and my friend's like, oh yeah, like very like lame, and they're like, and then the universe is like, yeah. So when he asks the friend like, yeah, what do you think? He's gonna just like kind of look disinterested, get some disinterested, mechanisms working in there, and they're like, all right, let's do it. So. And the person's just like, yeah, it's all right, And then you just feel like shit. Like, what the fuck? I thought you were going to lose your shit, right? Like, what's wrong with this person, right? So so then I was like, yo, okay, this person's like, no, what the fuck, right? And I didn't care about it, and then we just went on about our day, just chilling and shit. So then the universe is like, did it work? Did the disinterest mechanism work? And then the spirits are like, nah, man, he just for some reason like thinks this person doesn't believe in him anymore or some shit, right? And the universe is like, fuck, all right. What else do we got? Any more squirrels? The universe is like, nah, man, the squirrels are doing their own thing. We can't bother them anymore. So the spirits are like that, are telling the universe. And then the universe is like, okay, let me think. So we've tried 3 fucking times to wake this person up that he's going down the wrong path or like making a wrong decision. Now, guys, this might be a little extreme, but why don't we have one of his twisted family members just attack him? And the spirits are like, Jesus Christ, universe, that's a lot. And he's like, no. See, I've been taking info, and this person really is just so lost in his ego right now. He's not going to see that he may be going down the wrong path. He needs something like heavy, somebody to like attack him for no reason. And then they're like, when do you want this to happen? It's like right when he wakes up, and the spirits are like, what the fuck, man? What's wrong with the universe right now? And then the universe is like, nah, do it. Trust me, it's gonna work. And I wake up, and I'm like, yo, you gotta go to a dentist appointment. Don't forget about that. Next thing you know, like I'm about getting my keys, I get attacked. And the universe is just like, the universe is like, yeah, it's gonna work. It's gonna work. The spirits are like, this shit is so fucked, right? And then it happens, and there behold, it works. Because after every like heavy incident, a lot of people just kind of retract into themselves and start analyzing their life, and they start analyzing the situation and then analyzing different things. So that could also be a route, a reason why shit like that could happen. I just try to make it a story, kind of make it fun. But the squirrel and the sun thing did happen, and my boy, where I told him my idea, that stuff happened, right? And I don't know if these are related, but it could be, right? So that's fuck. So that's one thing that's there. Now, there's two other kind of part of my brainstorming analysis on. So that was the issue, like the kind of reason justifications I'm trying to put in my mind, right? So there are three more justifications that I'm going to explain that could also be why this random ass incident just happened and unfolded. So one, it's actually to have made this podcast episode. So maybe I believe, with the Ram Buddha podcast, I think everybody should really, just let it out and talk about their life and their issues, because it actually heals you really heavily, right? So it could be like for the healing purposes of my own, and also explaining there could be lessons in this shit, right? So that I could be putting in the podcast, and it could be of benefit to everybody, right? So that's one. Even though right now I am, just so out of it of giving a lecture than I usually am. Usually I prepare. I have some pointers. I really think about concepts. But today I just kind of wanted to. I felt like the content was there, because of the analysis I did on the situation that happened. So I thought I should share it, right? So that could be one reason, right? The second reason is actually a very beautiful thing. So it's again, so I found Buddhism by myself, right? Nobody introduced Buddhism to me. I've always seen the statue of Buddha, but then, I went on, when I was younger, I just decided to research like all these different religions. I studied sociology too, and a bit of psychology. So then I was like, you know what, I'm going to just go through the religions, and it all started with an endeavor to find your connections between all religions, right? That felt like a noble cause for a for an unstable 18-year-old, right? So I've been researching Buddhism and all this stuff, and Buddhism really changed my life. Jesus Christ, Jesus Christ. I should say Buddha, but yeah, it really changed my life and made me such a better human being, right? And the reason I think I had progress on it was because nobody forced it on me. I actually found it on my own, started reading it on my own, started applying principles as much as I could, and so the Dharma is the kind of sacred teachings of the Buddha, right? And the Dharma it itself is a very powerful thing. So once you get initiated into the Dharma, into the teachings of the Buddha, there's so much grace. There was so much grace present, so much compassion and loving kindness present when these teachings came forth by the Buddha, that there is a divinity that just awakens to your life the moment you go through the teachings, the Four Noble Truths. I remember, I was explaining to somebody, this is again like many years ago, we were in a balcony, and it was like, it was during winter, right? And I explained to them the Four Noble Truths. I was just excited, like, you want to know the Four Noble Truths of Buddhism? Just randomly, like a little kid who knows the secret, right? And they're like, yeah, sure. And I told them, and they said that they smelled the fragrance of like a flower, like flowers just come when I was talking about that, right? And there was like no flowers around, right? So I think for them, it triggered that in them. Like it was like the teachings were so real that it just kind of like they just felt like maybe their own beingness was blessing them, right? But anyways, back to the Dharma. So what it happens is the people who get engaged on the spiritual path, the grace of that path, of those teachings, I believe I initiated myself into Buddhism, right? And I think that was also the universe is doing as well, right? So what happened was, so once you get initiated into a Dhamma, that Dhamma's gonna take care of you, because it automatically becomes your highest destiny, right? It's the most purest path, and you know, by your own intuition, you know that you got to follow, like, you know, the spiritual teachings and paths that lead to the highest destiny line, to the brightest destiny line, right? That's again is itself a whole lecture that I had given once before, but since my channel was taken down by this lady, audiobook lady, who was complaining, right? And we had to take that whole channel down. We worked so hard on that, me and the other dudes. So yeah, but anyways, I'm getting off track. So back to the Dhamma, right? So basically the fundamental principle is this, right? So if you're engaged in the teachings, and that is the highest path, the universe and the teachings itself are almost like in a way alive, and there's so much grace there, in that spirit of that endeavor, that the Dhamma will bring you back to the Dhamma. So again, like, you're going down the wrong path, because when that happened, because a lot of aggression came. Whenever you're attacked, it's either like fight or flight, right? And when you choose to like fight, it's just like rage and suffering. And it's just all like the shitty emotions that this body can create, and it's creating at that time, because it's like, it's like two robots, like, just just like hitting each other and then glitching and shit, and then their lights are firing up, and their lights are blinking back and forth, sparks are flying up from their wires. That's what it is. That's like fighting, but like biological version of that. You see people like turn red, boiling, with anger, yelling and stuff. It's the same shit. It's low, it's stupid, right? So then I was like, maybe what should I have done in that situation, right? And I didn't like how my reflexes just went off full defense mode, like, just like, somebody's attacking me, so I'm gonna like punch back and shit, right? So I didn't like that. That was just, it just felt so extra. And so and I feel like, again, that's maybe I haven't been following the principles of the Dhamma, right? And that's the way the Dhamma is, because after that I was just so heated that I came down and sat down and put on a Buddhist mantra. I'll post a link of that Buddhist mantra. Yeah, so below in the video. So, and then I just calmed myself down, and also I went over the teachings of life. Again, to live is to suffer. See, that itself is another reason why things can happen, right? And that also kind of coordinates with the notion. See, a lot of people are depressed because they think the world has a bone to pick with them specifically, and they're like, what is it? Why is this happening? Why does everybody hate me? And then it's like, but the world is just happening. So this itself brought me out of my depression. It was one of the pillars. See, the pillars of coming out of depression itself is going to be like 4 lectures, right? Because that thing is huge. But there is a way out of depression, and once you'll get it, it's so funny that you'll laugh, right? I haven't been depressed in ages, and I used to be the most depressed kid ever, man. I was so depressed, it was ridiculous. So anyways, yeah, so it could be that things are just happening. So the fact that, see, again, I'm taking it personally. I'm like, why did the universe just orchestrate somebody attacking me, right? For no freaking reason, right? Or just like completely out of rational understanding, and it could be because I was just at the wrong place at the wrong time. And or again, see, people who believe in destiny, they don't believe in that, and that makes sense. These are things we got to all speculate into. But anyways, I think a lot of things are just happening too. Like, that's just what was happening, the reaction that was going on, and my involvement might have pushed that person on the edge, and they're like, why are you getting involved? And because I'm kind of closer, they can't attack like older people, right? So they just went at it, at me and shit, right? Which, again, the person was not in their normal state, right? Because in the fight, you just like, why would you attack somebody and then get like beaten up a bit and then just, you know what I'm saying? Because I didn't, I ended up, because when it goes into that fight mode, it's not me, it's like my own defense system comes in, right? I just become a different person. And so at that moment, it's like, why would you attack somebody who's gonna like defend himself and beat the shit out of you back? Like, what the fuck are you doing, right? And so that was just, it was just fucking sad, and then I felt sad for the person. I'm like, what the fuck, right? This person was already boiling, yelling, and then he attacked me. He got a hit a bit, I got punched too and shit, right? Like my fucking shoulder. I don't even know. It was the funniest part was that I'm right-handed, and this person hit me with their left hand, and that person is right-handed too, but their left hand hit my right shoulder at such an angle that my whole shoulder got like twisted or some shit. Like, it was just like from one of those off angles, it's like how you might hit like a doorway or something, by accident, and just your whole shoulder's like, damn, man, we weren't expecting this to be like that. So it was just, in the heat of the moment, and so I was mostly operating with my left hand, and anyway, so whether it's destiny or whether it's destiny or whether it is just something that was happening, there's always an option to make it really personal. And I actually think, for my case, it was personal, right? And I love how people think that, the spirit of the universe is supremely free. Everybody, like, subconsciously knows this, right? They're like, for all of this stuff to happen, for these planets to go in this fashion, like, and some people are like, it has to be divine will, destiny, or it just random shit is happening. Now this is my thing. Why not both? The God, the creator, the spirit is so free that it can actually orchestrate stuff and make things randomly happen too. Why not both of them could be present? Why does it have to be one or the other, right? Maybe some days God's like, everything's destiny. Maybe some days it's like, I don't know, random, and God's not a person, by the way. I'm personifying this, just for the sake of the anecdote, or explaining the points, right? Even with the other example with the squirrel, it's all personified, right? And we'll get deeper into this stuff, right, later on. So anyways, the notion of it could just be happening, and it has nothing to do with me. I was just there, right? Because I chose to be in this shared domain with a lot of, spirits incarnating into bodies, right? So that's one thing. Now, the last one also, I kind of really want to put this, even though I went past the point, back to the Dhamma, right? So there is a guru who I've learned so much from, and he's a Guru Rinpoche, right? And I felt very connected to with his mantras and stuff, you know how that person, when I told him like the Four Noble Truths, and then he just felt like the lotus smell or the smell of the flowers. I felt like that smell, that kind of thing, when I really hit the Vajrayana teachings of Guru Rinpoche, right? And Guru Rinpoche was this guru in Tibet. And so he went and faced a lot of demons, right? Apparently in his storyline. And what he did with the demons was he didn't like destroy them. He converted them to the teachings, to the Dhamma, and made them Dhamma protectors. And from my understanding, they're called Dakinis. I'm going to do a proper research. Oh my God, Tibet and Guru Rinpoche and all that stuff is going to be a section we're going to go through in this podcast. But that really takes a lot of research and planning, right? Because I want to do it right, as detailed as I can, right? So yeah, and so he had those Dhamma protectors. So it's funny. That some monks would go, let's say, I think the purpose of that was that if anybody was there to ruin or bother, let's say the monks, the monks are supposed to be in utmost peace. So these demons that were converted to be the protectors of the Buddhist Dhamma, they would go and deal with the people who try to mess with these innocent monks who are just trying to find their truth, right? Another thing would be let's say a monk goes off the path and they they see they're going down the wrong path. They were really spiritually conscious, and then they're just going down the wrong path. Then you're going to see these Dharma protectors actually, practice the Dharma themselves. Try to be kind or something. And by coming and scaring the hell out of you back to the Dharma, like a child running back to his father, who has been raising him up to be the greatest version of himself, right? So that's one thing. And another thing is, so this again goes into my stories in India. That itself is, oh my God, yeah, I can't really. That's gonna take like maybe 2 lectures, like 2-hour lectures, just explaining everything that happened there. But I went to Rishikesh, India, to a 200-hour yoga program, and it was one of the best trips of my life. So over there, like it's almost a similar mechanism. I was coming out of my ego, and when you reach the highest teachings, or when you want to initiate yourself into these teachings, you got to be ready for the knowledge. See, this is a concept that's been there from the dawn of time. Whether it's in Egyptian Hermeticism, the divine knowledge is so powerful and life-changing that you got to be ready for it, right? You got to be ready to receive it. And people who are on the brink of initiation, they might even see, let's say, so my experience was I saw like, I don't know which of the gods it was in the mythology, in the Ramayana mythology or something, but it was one of them, and all of a sudden I was seeing it, and it was so it was like in a dream or something, or half a dream state, and all of a sudden this thing, and I'm just looking at it, I'm like, yo, this looks nice, and then it just turned evil. It just went all demonic and stuff, right? So then I was like, whoa, maybe I shouldn't be studying this stuff. And then I thought about it, and I actually read it in one of the bookstores, I think. I don't know where that piece of information came, but the information was, that's the reason that is happening is like, are you ready to let go of your ego? So the demon that you're seeing really is your own ego and selfish, just like coming up and preventing you, standing in your own way, right? It's kind of like mind games. So before like reaching the divine knowledge. So I didn't stop, and I continued on that. And I didn't care if I see things, because I'm like, yo, everything's, the visual stuff is just visual, right? And what's here is way more than visual, okay? And that's actually one of the big themes of this whole talk, because what happened to me today, I can look at it from the visual perspective, or I can just, try to analyze it, internalize it, and see what was occurring beyond the visuals, right? And that's a very, everybody's got this ability. I call it understanding through silence, knowing through silence, operating through silence, the silence of your being, which is very powerful and one of the big teachings that I want to give to people, right? But all in due time, we'll get there too, right? So I think I covered all of it. Was there one more point? Maybe there was. I don't know. I don't quite remember. I got so sidetracked. But no, I think I covered all of it. Yeah. So, and also right now, like after giving this talk, I had a very shitty day today. Like a completely garbage day. Waking up is just ridiculous, right? But after talking about this stuff, I gave meaning to my day. I turned a bad situation into a better situation, because I feel great right now. I feel like a lot of burden went off me. I'm cooled off from my anger. At the start of the podcast, I was like, that, because I was like, my body was still like, yo, this hurts, man. Like, I don't know what the hell happened to my shoulder. Like, my shoulder just got like punched once, but it got twisted in some like angle that it's just piercing. Even right now, I can't even raise it past the point. It'll probably get better like in a few days. But so yeah, and I feel much better now, and I guess you can even hear it. Yeah, so Sorry, just had to cut it off for a second because the phone battery is running low. Yeah, so yeah, and so as I said, you can hear it in voice, and I think what I've been doing right now with this podcast is transmuting the transmutation of darkness to light, which is the sign of the spiritual master, and of which I need, my goal is to get there, right? Because the spiritual master is so calm and collected in every situation that any evil that comes towards him, he's gonna know. And first of all, he's operating in an aura of immense compassion where he wouldn't, raise a finger on people, like, not to say that he won't stand up for himself, but his frequency is going to be so bright and radiant that crazy shit like that's not going to even happen to him because he's past that, right? So, but their quality is whatever negativity comes, they transmute that darkness and make a brightness out of it. Turn it into light. And you actually see this in, so there was this girl in college, and everyone's depressed during exams. She's always happy, she's always like smiling, laughing, and everyone loved her, right? They're like, oh my God, she's like just a happy grenade, Okay, that's a messed up example, right? Because she was pretty good looking, but she was very happy, and all the time. And even the worst news you'd get is she'd like feel a little down, and then she'd transmute it into a brightness for herself. She's like, oh, it's okay, well, we're gonna do this, or she'll laugh it off. And that was a very admirable quality. People are like, yo, this person's so fragile, they're not gonna be able to confront life. I'm like, yeah, like I get that angle. I don't want to analyze this person, but so they were so happy that I personally could agree that at some point maybe they're crying or something, right? Like maybe when they're alone, they're miserable, depressed, or crying, and that's just an outer thing. But no, this person was, I think, really trying to just kind of acknowledge that life is paradise, right? Everything's happy, everybody got to be happy, and it was noble, but you shouldn't be a kid about it. You got to confront the suffering, the bullshit in life, right? So that was so that was the thing, right? And so she was transmuting darkness into light, and it was very noble of her, and I always admired her for that quality, and when you see people like this, like kids are like this, some kids, they're really like this. They turn like negative situations, like the optimist, keep being optimistic. You're much higher, you're in a much elevated state. You're being like the spiritual masters who confronted darkness to its core and also brought out brightness from the core, from to its peaks, right? So that's where all of you got to go. That is my path in life that I'm trying to embark on. That's what I've learned. All the knowledge that I've, collected have told me that I got to be like this. So I'm in the alchemical process of transmuting the darkness in me into a brightness that is so fully realized, into a darkness that is so fully confronted that it never happens again, and I transcend on the spiritual path, or on my spiritual awakening. Again, spiritual path and awakening, I don't want you to feel short, because all of these things, see, it's not a mountain that we're climbing. It's a circle that goes back and around. It's like the Tower of Life Zen, right? So that's a big distinguishment on the spiritual path that I want to make, because it's a point that you got to understand the rest of the videos, right? So yeah, that was the final point that I thought I had forgotten. And I hope this lecture was of benefit to you. And if crazy shit happens in your life, you don't understand the purpose, don't react, don't become like it, right? And as a bonus, I'll give you one more justification, which I did talk about a little bit And that justification is that the person who attacks you, a person who is not suffering within will not cause suffering without, So in other words, those who suffer inside, who are burning inside, they don't want to be lonely in that burning. And they're so stupid and selfish that they want to bring people down to their level to burn like them so that they can feel like, they can confront their own internal bullshit more, right? So don't get hooked into that. Don't react. Don't sink low. There's an old saying, when a dog bites your leg, you're not going to get on your knees and hands and bite the dog's leg back, right? So, which is surprising because you see it every day. It's like the eye for an eye thing, like Gandhi. Gandhi's probably like, well, I told them they're not following it, but I told them, right? And then heaven's like, we know, man. It's just messed up down there, right? So, yeah, and be careful of that because that really brings you down. You don't want to see. It's like if a dog bites you back and you get angry and you're like, well, the dog bit me. I'm not going to stand there and not do anything. I'm a boss. I'm gonna bow down and get down and bite his leg back and make him understand never to bite me again. There's some value in that in the long term, right? And then afterwards, you're gonna feel like, let's say you do that, you go through that, and the dog doesn't bite you again, right? But the dog succeeded in bringing you on its level. And yeah, the dog's not going to attack you, but you're less brighter now. And that shit's going to fuck with you, man. That shit's going to mess with you, right? Because everyone wants to improve. Everyone wants to grow. That is the need that you got. That is the inclination in you that you got to protect. You got to nurture, right? So, and you got to confront life. If somebody attacks you, you got to confront that shit. Even if it, just you're not ready for it, and it just brings out reactions out of you. And even if you react back, even if you, end up biting the dog back or, blinding the person who blinded you, right? If you feel on some level that I don't feel good about this, know that you're more conscious than the person who's completely satisfied with getting, kind of jumping down and biting the dog's leg like the dog. You're in a higher spiritual state. And what this is that it's a calling to action, calling to analyze your situation and learn from mistakes internally and externally, right? So let's say, have you ever had a frame of mind, a thought that really messed with you, right? And it was so normal to you. Like, for example, it could be like a base thought, like, like, somebody pushes me, I push back, right? And that's like a base thought. Like, let's just say it's into your core, and you do that, and then, that person, you become like, disliked like that person. So then you realize, you analyze it, you're like, okay, fuck, what am I doing? I'm greater than this. I have a bigger, brighter destiny line than just being an animal, right? So I'm gonna go pursue that, because then life is like wasting time, right? So, and man, I'm coughing a lot today. The body's just under pressure. But yeah, so when you realize that, and you're like, okay, yeah, I'm not gonna be like that, and then you realize and you reflect, you just sit down and you're like, okay, why am I like this? And you find the thought. This is the cool thing about it. You find the thought, you're like, oh, all of this is because I believe firmly that the right thing to do when somebody pushes you is to push back. Like always, always push back, or like even push back 10 times harder, right? You analyze it, let's say this is an example, and you take that thought out. You're like, you know what? You're going to see your energy change. You're going to see your whole mood of your day change because you have gotten rid of a mechanism of ignorance from yourself. And that is the purpose of life. And it makes life worthwhile. See, when I grow old, I'm not going to be looking back. It's like, oh, I could have done all these things. I'm not going to be like that. I'm going to be the one who's going to look back and be like, did I eradicate my ignorance? Did I gain the wisdom and knowledge that my soul came here to receive from this temporary experience in this body, in this temporary flesh, did I make the best out of it that way? And if my answer is yes, then I'd be like, okay, I lived a good life. And they're like, but homie, you didn't party. I party, but imagine, they're like, you didn't ball out, you didn't get a yacht, you didn't go swimming in shit, like in an ocean, whatever, right, in Hawaii. That's not gonna mess with me at all. What's gonna mess with me is if I did all of that stuff, and not to say that that stuff is wrong. You can do both if you can. Some people can, I don't know. But if I got hooked on that, just the materialistic joys and pleasures, and not to say that that's bad. No, it's good. Like you got to enjoy your life too. But if I was just lost in that, or just operating in like an animal level, just fighting, and then just like, the basic primitive animal things was just the focus of my life. Then when I'd probably get old, I'd just be like, okay, what the fuck? Like I was in like a haze in this cloud. And then, so they could, they come out of that cloud when they get older and they see death standing there at the end, and life is like, yo, I mean, what's, this person's tripping out. What? They were having so much fun. And death is like, yeah, they're beginning to see me at the end of the line, and yeah, watch them panic now. They went through their whole life not analyzing jack shit, just living like animals. Yeah, they did grow, but they didn't really confront the Four Noble Truths, or which are in every, everybody, every religion says be aware of the natural cycle of life, that it ends. And death is just smirking, like standing there from afar. It's like, yeah, they're beginning to see me, and they're gonna panic, and they're gonna run around, and they're not gonna express the panic, because it's inappropriate for their age. There are a lot of other human beings who handle their shit, right? And life is very natural. There are natural processes that take over people to make things easy for everybody, right? But yeah, sorry, I thought it was not recording. But yeah, so they begin seeing death, and they're like, wait, there has to be more to life. Life's ending. It's like for 60 years, they've been ignoring that this life ends, which it itself causes so much mental aberrations that it's bullshit, right? So you got to be aware of life, like what this is, okay? Don't be like a child, a child doesn't want to hear about that shit. It's like, I'm a kid, I got my life ahead of me, I want to play, right? But you're like at the age of 60, you still want to play like a kid. Then it's like, it's kind of sad, and it's sad for you, right? Don't even care about what other people think. You're gonna panic. And I've seen this so much, because all of a sudden you see these people who were greedy and just like full of shit their whole lives. When they reach the age of 60, 50, 60, when they get old, or they get some major illness, or like something where they begin seeing death, they start changing. And they become super religious. They become super religious. They run to the temples and mosques. Like, I should have donated. Right? But that's what's going to help you is your own understanding, your own growth, your own awareness of consciousness. And your life is a constant opportunity from that, with the bullshit and the good moments. All of it has to be analyzed. Right? That's just the path of the higher human, the higher awareness human. So you got to do that. Otherwise, you're going to panic. One of my, again, I'm going to say relatives. I'm not going to say who, but this is, so he's older, and he's a very rich individual, right? He's like a millionaire and shit. And very materialistic, right? This person's materialistic, just greedy. Like he's, you know that movie with the ducks and shit? What was it, Scrooge? I don't know if it was a Disney show or whatever, where the three ducks, and then there's Scrooge, who's like pile of gold and shit. So he's literally that. He's not a duck, but he's Scrooge, right? And he's screwed, right? Because when he gets and we were talking about it, and we were just looking at nature, and he's showing off his garden. He's like, look at all these fruits I got in this garden, right? Like, look at these raspberries, right? And then I'm like, yeah, and I don't know what kind of vibe I was on. I was much younger, but I knew he was like scared of this shit, like anything that had to relate to really confronting life. Because greed again is a symptom. That all of that shit I'm gonna go into, right? I'm not gonna go into that. But anyways, to end this story, right? And I told him, yeah, all of these trees and plants, they're a sign that life starts and ends, and even so I read the Quran too. I read the Bhagavad Gita and all this stuff. So I told him he was Muslim, right? So I told him like, yo, the Quran. I guess he's like one of those Muslims who's not Muslim at all, right? Like he's just like Scrooge. that was his religion, right? So I just told him like, Quran. The Quran says like everything has all the plants are there to remind you that life ends, right? And then the Quran kind of takes it to an extreme. It says the judgment day is going to happen, right? But the main thing is that life ends. It starts and ends. Like be conscious, right? The plants are your teachers too, and to remind you to live consciously. And so I told him this, and he just went pale, and he grabbed a raspberry from one of the trees, and he's like, "You want a raspberry?" I was like, what the fuck? I'm like, this person just completely had a mini meltdown. Or, I was just like, saying, I felt even bad for saying that. I'm like, yo, this guy's 60. Like, what the fuck? Like, and they're like, yeah, I think he was 60 or 58 or something. I don't know. But, and he was like healthy. He was like fine, and then the moment I saw that, I remember going to my father and telling him, like, this is sad shit. Like, and I didn't continue, honestly. I could have been like, yo, confront life. What the hell are you doing, But I didn't. I just took the raspberries. I'm like, thank you, and then I just like went out of that conversation. And, but that was the sad thing, right? So to sum it up, your life and everything you're confronting, the best, most productive mode of seeing it that you can use as a tool is that they're your teachers, to get you to reflect, analyze, and internally grow, expand in your awareness, right? Because expansion of awareness is simultaneous with the reduction of your ego and ignorance, right? And the more you try to improve like that, the more brighter your life gonna get, and the more you're gonna be like the giants, the spiritual masters that walked this earth that we're all walking, right? So yeah, like pay attention to these things, and don't stress out, and if any of you have issues like with your family or weird shit that happens, I'm not saying do not defend yourself, handle situations, right? Because that's part of confronting it, right? So right now I got to go in and just be like, people are crying and shit, so I got to go in and be like, what the hell's going on, right? I got to try to tame the situation, put my personal side aside, and right now, I'm not, I'm gonna come out of that, I think I'm just gonna just defend myself, in case I get randomly attacked. I don't think that's gonna happen because this person is not like this usually. He was just went crazy psycho for a second. I don't even understand. But yeah, you gotta confront life. You gotta deal with shit. And even if you break down, let's say you have a nervous breakdown, you get super depressed, you start like crying and yelling at life, why have you forsaken me, whatever it is, just bring yourself back up, analyze the situation, don't run away, don't succumb to escapism, because that is very dangerous. And the greatest people walking this earth, they know this secret. They said fuck you to escapism, and they ended up getting their lives back in their hands and growing a lot from that, and becoming conscious. So I'm going to end it there. Thanks for pulling through and listening. Namaste. This is the end of the third lecture. The third lecture was going to be something else, but this just happened on the spot. And so, yeah, this is the end of the third lecture. Hope you enjoy. Don't forget to subscribe. Take care.